Hello, welcome in. Welcome in to my weekly spirit boost. I'm Tammy, Mastroberte, best-selling author of the books The Universe is Talking to You and the one behind me, The Higher Help Method. And I help people tap into what I refer to as the divine higher helpline or the higher helpline of the universe. And today I am here to talk to you a little bit about the difference between higher helpers and guides, right? So I always tell you we all have higher helpers to call in, to work with, to ask for help with. In the book, I give you loads and lists of them broken down by category. And so I always talk about higher helpers. So when I talk about calling in your angels and your guides and your loved ones who have passed on, and what I call your soul society, which is sort of everyone that encompasses that, I talk about everything, right? So that's sort of what I refer to as the collective, or calling in the collective, when you're calling in all of your angels, all of your guides, what have you. And that includes higher helpers. So when I talk about your guides are part of your higher help team. We all have angels, guardian angels, and we all have guides that are assigned individually to us outside of the higher helpers that we might call on, that anybody can call on, right? When we incarnate into this body and come here and become the human being that we are, which is really the soul inside the human body, we bring with us individuals. Good morning, Lorraine. We bring with us individual helpers in addition to those higher helpers that anybody can call on, right? The saints, the goddesses, the gods, the angels, the archangels, ascended masters, all of those different higher helpers. So when I talk about guides, I say call in your guides, right? They're just part of the higher help team. So just like you can work with a higher helper, like let's say you are on a healing journey and you're working with Archangel Raphael. You can work with Archangel Raphael. You can assign a sign to Archangel Raphael so that you know that he is around you, because maybe you are working specifically with him on this healing journey that you are on. Okay. The same thing can happen with your guides. So just as there are specialized higher helpers, angels who specialize in healing, goddesses who specialize in healing, saints who specialize in healing, money and abundance, etc., you have individual guides that are part of that higher help team that also specialize in helping you in certain areas of your life. Now, if you don't know who they are, that is covered when you use my prayer formula and you call in all of your angels and guides. And I always say, if you don't know who to call in, you can say anyone who specializes in X, Y, and Z, right? However, just like knowing who the higher helpers are, which is why I put together all of those lists for you, and actually calling them in specifically because that's what they specialize in, right? I always say, you've probably heard me say this on podcasts before. I think I've said it here before. You don't want to call the car mechanic to come into your house and fix your plumbing. You don't want to call someone who is specialized as a chef to come in and clean your house necessarily, or to come in and fix your air conditioning unit, right? You want to call in the people who specialize in what they specialize in. So it's the same thing with your guides. When you know this guide, this name works with this other guide I can call on for help with this, it takes it up a notch, right? So the same way calling in your higher helpers collectively versus calling in your specialized higher helpers takes it up a notch. It's the same thing with your guides. So we all have them. When I first started meeting mine, it took my relationship with them to another level. And anybody can meet a guide. You do not have to have psychic experience. You do not have to, you are connected to these people and you can be guided to meet them. Okay. And that is what the class that I'm teaching next Thursday is on. It is linked below. I have to link it in Instagram. I'll do it in my stories after this, but it is linked below in YouTube and Facebook, where I am teaching my Meet a Personal Spirit Guide class, where you are going to meet a guide and then you will own the replay so you can meet more. But let me explain to you what happened to me. So the first guide that I ever met, her name was Athena, not the goddess Athena, I don't believe. She's just my guide, Athena. She had beautiful blonde hair. She looked like an angel. She was wearing all white. And she is around to help me stay centered, to help me stay balanced, and to help me stay consistent with my spiritual practices. So at the time that I met her, that's what I needed help with most. This was years ago. When I do the class with you, we set the intention for the guide to come in that you most need to work with right now, right? So she was the one who showed up that time. When I decided I wanted to meet another guide, I went back in and poof, Simon showed up. Simon looks like Mr. Rogers to me. He just sort of has a button-down plaid shirt and khaki pants and just looks like an accountant. No offense to the accountants in the world, but I'm just saying he just looks like a very brainy guy, right? He helps me with money. He helps me with my finances. He helps me make decisions around that. He helps me understand what to do with the money that I have, etc. Okay? Then I think the guide after that was Charlemagne, which is a woman, red curly hair, looked like she had like a crown of flowers, kind of like one of those hippie chicks. She's my relationship guide, right? So if I have a problem in my relationships, specifically my romantic relationship with my husband, she would be the one who would show up, or she would be the one that I would call on for assistance, right? So I have a guide named Penelope who helps me with channeling, etc., etc. So when I started figuring out who these guides were, and again, you all have them, and you all have them that work with different things. Sometimes there's someone that you've never heard of before. I've had people take the class with me and Jesus shows up for them. I've had people take the class for me and a loved one shows up for them. I'll never forget, I did last summer, and I think some of you were there from that I know follow me. I did an in-person class last summer in Lilydale, New York, and I brought them through this exercise of meeting a guide that I'm going to be doing in class next Thursday. And some of you have already taken this class with me, I know, and you've done it before and you've loved it. I have people that take it every year when I do it. I don't always do it every year, but it's been so amazing that I've started doing it yearly. And so my husband took the class. This was the coolest thing ever. And I said to him, listen, if you're going to be in the class with me, because you're traveling with me anyway, just do the exercises. And he was like, okay. So he did the exercise and his grandfather showed up and he was like, he could talk about nothing else for the rest of this trip and the 6-hour drive home. Like he was so in shock. And he was like, Tammy, I can't believe it. And in the exercise, I have you ask questions and I have you talk to the guide and get answers from the guide that you want to know or what you most need to hear. And I also ask you to ask your guide to give you the sign that they will use moving forward to let you know that they're around. And for his, it was a hammer, like, a hammer, like a hammer and a nail. And we were talking about it driving home. And as we're driving home, and the thing, and I think, I can't remember if I did the assign a sign. I think I did the assign a sign with them separately, but this was the guide sign. We're driving home. I'll never forget. Oh my gosh, it was so crazy. We both had chills. And we're talking about his experience and we're talking about how his grandfather showed up and we're talking about the sign of the hammer. And he even wrote on the top of the page, because I have you do some automatic writing in the class that we're going to do next Thursday. And he wrote on the top of a paper in all capital letters the word hammer. And I was like, oh, that's so funny how you kind of, did it. And I said to him, well, listen, you have to always remember when you ask for a sign, you don't have to see an actual hammer. You could see the word hammer. You could see, I always say you don't always take it literally, right? So we're driving home. We wind up going a different way than we drove there. We wound up like cutting through Pennsylvania, okay, instead of going through, I think we went Jersey directly to New York because they're in like sort of upstate New York. We wound up going a different route home and we cut through Pennsylvania. It was actually a much more beautiful drive than just highways. And as we're driving and literally talking to one another about this experience that he had, all of a sudden he goes, "Oh my God, look." And I look to the right and there's literally the street sign says Hammer Road, all in capital letters. And we both got chills from like the top of our head to the bottom. And I was like, oh my God. And he was so floored. Now he's used to me talking about this stuff, right? But he doesn't really experience it. He doesn't really take my classes, but he went with me to this event. And so he did all of the exercises and he was just beside himself. And I loved it because it was somebody, again, no psychic experience necessarily, although he is very empathic and I believe he's very psychic, but not like that he's taken classes and anything, right? And he was able to have this experience and he was floored. So yes, sometimes a loved one will come through. Sometimes your guides are, figures in the world, right? One of my guides is Benjamin Franklin. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I know he was an entrepreneur. I know he was a writer because he wrote his own book. So I guess that makes sense. But that's somebody who showed up for me, right? So now he's one of my guides and he helps me with business. So sometimes, yes, you'll have an actual person like that. Sometimes I don't know who the heck Simon is. I don't know who Charlemagne is. I don't know who some of these other people are. But it's always fascinating when I teach the class because then I hear from people and they tell me like who their guides are. And it's just so like at the end of the class, I do a Q&A and I say what happened with you and people share. And it's just so much fun. So once you know who your guides are and you know the sign that they want to use to let you know they are around, now you know who's around you. You know who's communicating with you. You can develop a deeper relationship with your higher helpers, with your guides. Thank you for liking the video. I always forget to say that. If you like what I'm saying, if you enjoy these weekly spirit boosts, please hit like. Let me know you're there and you're listening and you're enjoying. And so that makes a big difference, right? It makes a big difference. Now, do you have to know who they are? You don't. But if you want to better communicate with the universe, with your angels, with your guides, with higher helpers, if you want to deepen the relationship, if you want to know who's around you when they're around you, and if you want to be able to ask them questions, right? I'm walking you through an exercise where you're literally going to get your own answers, right? You don't have to go to a psychic. You don't have to go to a medium. We're going to get you answers. If you want to take it up a notch, getting to know your guides makes a big difference. And again, it was years ago that I first started doing it. And I thought, this is so crazy. I probably have so many more that I haven't even tapped into yet, right? But I love it. And I love who shows up and I love when they show up. And I often in the morning, I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago when I talked about my new morning routine. Oftentimes in the morning, I do an automatic writing exercise. And now I'm at the point where I just sort of go into my space and see who shows up and who needs to talk to me. Sometimes I have a specific question about money or about my relationship or about business. I recently met a guide, this was just a few weeks ago, who apparently he came in and there were others behind him. And from what I got, his name was George and he was my marketing guide. I've never met a marketing guide. I didn't know I had a marketing guide, but this is who showed up. And then there was like a team behind him. And so he started literally talking to me about things that I was teaching, and it was just craziness. So, but I've been doing this for years, right? So if you're just started, just know I started with only one guide and was like, this is the coolest thing. I can't believe it. And then it grew from there. So the class that I'm teaching next Thursday, again, the link is below to join me. You're going to meet one guide, the one you most need to work with now, and then you're going to have that replay so you can go back in and meet more. You're also getting a bonus MP3 with that that's going to allow you to continue your conversation with the guide you meet in a guided way moving forward, so that you can continue to get information from that guide. You can continue to say, what do I most need to know right now around money or around health or around my relationships or around growing my intuition, right? I mean, we have guides for all of it, right? So you're just going to stack these guides on top of the higher helpers. They are your unique higher helpers. The higher helpers I talk about all the time are universal. You can all call on them. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your belief system. They are available to you, right? And I always say you call on who resonates with you. But you yourself, just like me, myself, you have individual higher helpers who are guides that you can call on in addition to the universal ones. And that's what I mean about deepening your relationship with these higher helpers, with your unique higher helpers, and actually being able to get information. I have gotten some of the most helpful information. And here's the funny thing. Sometimes I say, oh, yeah, I knew that. I need to do that. And I don't do it. And they'll come back around with it. They're like, Tammy, what do you do? Like, why are you not paying attention to what we just told you? Right? So listen to the guidance that comes through, but it's just taking it up a notch. Some people are like, I'm cool with not taking it up a notch. I'm happy where I'm at. That's fine. But for those who are looking, like saying, oh my gosh, I love this. I love that it's working. I love, the signs that I am getting from higher helpers. I really would love to take this up a notch. I'd love to know the people that I am working with. That's where guides can come in. It's additions to your higher help team. And again, instead of calling in the collective, you can call them in individually and really start working with them one-on-one. Sorry, I was just trying to see what was happening on Instagram. Working with them one-on-one. And it makes such a big difference, which is why I love to teach the class. So again, that's happening next Thursday. You can just go below this video in YouTube and Facebook. And again, I'll add it into a story coming up on Instagram so that you guys can join the class. If you would like to, I absolutely love teaching it. It is so much fun. I love hearing who comes in for all of you. And it becomes something that you're just going to do. Like I said, I just met another guy that I had never met before a couple of weeks ago who just popped into a session, an automatic writing session I was doing. So once you get familiar with it and you start working with them on a regular basis, you are going to open yourself up to more and more. And now you just have additional people to add into your higher help team when you're requesting help. So if you have a guide, like my guide, Simon, right? If I'm asking for help with money, I might call in Goddess Lakshmi. I might call in Saint Expedite. I might call in Archangel Ariel, who can help with prosperity and manifestation. And then I also add Simon in, right? It just takes it to another level. And I'm always about kicking things up a notch, taking things to another level. But you know that I give you options, right? I give you options to customize your own spiritual routines, your own daily practices, your own spiritual tools. I give you everything. You use what works and resonates with you. So for those who are like, yeah, I want to take it up a notch, I do want to know more, then this is an option for you. If not, you have absolutely everything you need in the higher help method that will allow you to customize from there. If you're not interested in sort of knowing who are some of these other people that are working with me that I can call on, and hey, wouldn't it be cool to know they're around if I find out the sign that they might use, right? Because another guide that I met years ago and honestly struggled with believing that she was a guide, and I put her to the test, was Mother Mary. Now, it's not shocking to me that she would be a guide because my entire family, and if you've read my books, you know, my entire family, my mother, my aunt, their mother, it goes back, very dedicated to the Blessed Mother. right? To Mother Mary. Very, very dedicated to it. My mother used to fall asleep with rosary beads and break them, and she would have chunks of rosary beads that were broken in a dish next to her bed. Mother Mary was the thing, right? So it's not shocking, but at the same time, I thought, who am I to that Mother Mary would be guiding me? And I actually had a medium tell me that at one point too, but I still was kind of like, what? That doesn't, why would she be with me? And I've had people struggle with that who say to me, like, Jesus showed up, but I don't know if this is true. And it's like, no, it's true, right? Don't think, who am I? Because I thought that too. But anyway, I questioned Mother Mary. And so after a meditation, this is years ago, I said to her, listen, if you're really my guide, then use the sign of a rose within the next couple days to let me know you're around, and then I'll believe it. Right? Then I'll truly believe that you are a guide that I can call on. And I'll never forget, I left the meditation, I went to my desk, and at the time I had like one of those calendars where you rip off the days and then like each day is a different picture or whatever. And I ripped off the day, or oh no, I think I just sat down and I looked at the calendar to rip off the day, and I noticed that there was a rose in the background of the thing. And I remember I was like, well, because listen, I tell you, I know you do it because I do it. I was like, well, that was yesterday's date, right? So I don't know if I can take that. Like, that's too soon. You're going to have to give me another one. And I ripped it off and I went about my day. Literally 15 minutes, maybe not even later, I had a thought to look up a document that I had where I had some information in it. I don't know if it was from a previous reading that I had. I can't remember, but I thought to myself, oh, I need to look at this document. So I opened the Word document on my computer and I was looking through it, and all of a sudden my eyes stop on the line, stop and smell the roses. And I said, oh, and I was like, all right, I get it. I get it. You're a guide. Like, I'll shut up now. I'll leave you alone. Thank you so much. I'm done questioning it now. I will just believe you. So I do it too. But it's so amazing to be able to have that sign. And then when you see these signs, you know what guide is around you. I teach you to figure out, like, if there's a certain fragrance or a certain smell sometimes that they might. And so even if I smell roses, I know she's around me, right? So it's just amazing. And it's just a different way, and it's a higher way to do things. And so again, you know me, I teach you everything I do and everything I know, and you decide what works for you and you decide what you want to do. But I'm going to offer it because if I do it and I know it works, then I'm going to offer it. Okay. So, okay, let me just see if there's any comments or questions. Pop them in to the Q&A. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to open it. It wasn't letting me click it. Katie. She said guides aren't always necessarily a human who has had a human experience. 100%. I don't know what my guides, if they've ever been human or not. They show up to me because I'm very clairvoyant. Not everybody is going to see something. You might just see a light. You might just have a feeling. You might have a tingling sensation in a part of your body to know, to identify this particular guide, right? I happen to be very clairvoyant, so I wind up seeing things. And our guides will present themselves to us in a way that we need to see them, or in a way that we will understand, right? And so for me, Simon showed up as Mr. Rogers. Not as Mr. Rogers, but he looked like a Mr. Rogers to me. That doesn't mean he's human. That doesn't mean he's ever lived a life before. You know what I mean? It doesn't, you never know. It's just that they will present themselves to us in a way that makes sense. Now, think about it. The Mr. Rogers Simon, to me, looked like what I would think of as a buttoned up accountant. And he's helping me with money. So there was no shock that he showed up for me in that way, right? My first guide, Athena, was to help me stay centered and balanced and and to stay consistent in my spiritual practices. She showed up to me as this beautiful, almost angel. She wasn't an angel, but in like this white flowing gown that was very peaceful and serene and spiritual, right? So they show up in a way that they want you to see them. But that doesn't mean, correct, that they've ever lived a human life. They could just be guides that have never had a human experience, but they are here to guide us through that human experience. So it runs the gamut. I have so many people that wind up coming to me and saying, I was waiting for this guide and my grandmother showed up. Or I was waiting for this guide and my uncle showed up. And like, this is so crazy. And it's like, well, no, that loved one may be one of your guides. It's possible. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, Marilyn is part of my group. Hi, Marilyn. She's part of my membership, so she's definitely going to be there next Thursday. Yeah, I can't wait because I just love teaching it and I love people having the experience and I love to hear, just like I always say to you, please tell me the signs that you get and the crazy ways that they come through, because I never get tired of hearing about those experiences from people, because it's always sometimes shocking, but amazing and miraculous to me to see how the universe and our loved ones, the things that they do and the crazy magical ways that they use to get through to us, right? It's just fascinating to me. So it's just as fascinating to me to hear who's showing up for you. What do they look like? What did they say? What are they helping you with, right? Like, it's fascinating because everybody has a different experience, right? You may not get a Mr. Rogers looking guide for money. I don't know. You might get somebody who looks like, Jimmy Buffett or something. I don't know. It depends, right? But it's always just really just magical to me to see, and I get excited for other people to have these experiences because I know what it's done for me in my life, and I know how I use things in my life, and I know how helpful it is in navigating my life. And so if I can give you a piece of that, that excites me. So that's why I love teaching. I love teaching all the classes that I teach, honestly, but there's some of them that are just so much fun for me because I get to hear from you and I get to hear about the different things that you're experiencing. And I just remember how fascinating it was for me the first few times that I met these guides. And now, even today, it's still exciting. Like when George came through. Oh, and the craziest thing that happened with George, because I remember I tell my husband everything. Like I said, he hears these things from me, but when he experienced it himself and was just blown away by it, it was so cool for me to watch. So what happened with George is he came through and I was doing automatic writing and I got the name of a book. Or first of all, I didn't know it was the name of the book. I got 2 words and I said to myself, what the heck is that? And then I was like, oh, it's a book. Never heard of this before in my life. But I stopped what I was doing, pulled up my phone, went on Amazon, put the words in, and it turns out there was a book with those called that name, and it had just come out like late last year. So it was a new book. And I was like, so I was so fascinated at the fact that this new guide showed up and gave me the name of a book to read that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to tell my husband. So I said to him, like, oh my God, this guy showed up. His name is George and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, that's cool. I said, yeah, can you believe he gave me the name of the book? And then I looked it up and not only was it a book, but it had just come out. Anyway, I still get excited about this stuff. So I tell my husband about it because he's the one that I see every night and have to report to someone what's going on. So it was just a really cool experience. And so I want you guys to have these experiences because they are possible for you. And I'm not special, right? I've learned how to do it and I just want to teach you how to do it because it just takes your higher help to another level. Okay. So basically, I just want to make sure I got everything. Oh, Mark, you're funny. He goes, I suppose falling asleep with rosary beads is better than falling asleep with a lit cigarette. That would be 100%, Mark. Yes. But she really did. She would always fall asleep. And then I guess she would roll over on them or I don't know what would happen, but she broke them all the time. So she would always have little, and I guess then she didn't want to throw them out because they're rosary beads. So there was just like a pile of broken rosary beads that she saved. It was just wacky. So yeah, I don't know, crazy. But oh, Barb, thank you. She said if you're not a member, Tammy's masterclasses are so worthwhile purchasing. Better become a member to get all the content as part of your membership. Yes, so you actually can sign up. You're the best, Barb. I love you. You can sign up for the masterclass itself, or you can join the membership, which is less money. And then you get monthly masterclasses with me and for less money. And then if you don't like the membership, you can always cancel at any time. Up to you, but you do get both options. So when you click on that link on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, I will get it up there for you. You'll have that option of just joining the membership or just purchasing the one class. Either way, you get the replay and you get that bonus MP3 to continue having conversations. And then you can use the replay itself to just meet other guides. But we do have fun in my master classes. And I always try to take time to answer, any questions, even if I'm on there a little longer and people have to jump off. As long as I'm answering your questions, I will be there. So thank you, Barb. You are the best. And thank you, all of you. I'm like trying to see what time it is because I try to keep these to like 40 minutes or so. But thank you all for being here. If you're interested in meeting a guide, click the link and check it out. We are going to have a lot of fun next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. But again, you get the replay. So even if you can't join live, you can watch the replay. And you get that bonus MP3. So as soon as the class is over, I will send you that bonus MP3 so that you can continue your conversations with the guide that you actually meet. And then you can meet other ones. So it will be fun. But thank you for being here with me. I teased last time that I was going to have a special guest coming up. It is not until next month. So I will leave you with the wonder, but it is amazing special guest. And I adore her and all of her work. So, and I know that many of you do too as well. So just stay tuned for that. It's coming next month. And I will let you know in a couple weeks who that's going to be. And have a wonderful, amazing weekend. And call in your higher helpers, call in your guides if you know them, have conversations with them, ask them for the signs. We need reassurance that we are being heard, that we are being helped. So, and the most important thing that I tell you every weekend, and I truly mean it, is do something this weekend that brings you joy, just for the sake of making yourself happy. Just do something. I don't care if it's for 5 minutes, if it's for an hour, if it's getting a latte, if it's getting reading a book for a little while, if it's gardening. I mean, it's going to be hot as I don't even know what in New Jersey. It's in the 90s right now, and I think it's supposed to be like that through the weekend. So if you're around here, maybe don't garden unless you have one of those little fans. But do something that brings you joy. Do something that makes you happy. It will boost your mood. It will boost your vibration. And most of all, you deserve it, especially if you're someone who does and does and does for others. Do something for yourself this weekend. Call in your higher helpers. I will be back next week. Oh, I just want to see, there was another question that came in. How do we know which guide is for what? We have to ask the universe to show us this person. I hear names, but I don't see the image. How do you see their image? So not everybody sees an image. It really depends on you, right? But in the class that I do, I teach you to see how they communicate with you. So maybe it's an image, maybe it's a sound, maybe it's a feeling in your body. But we ask them to give you a name. We ask them to give you a name, and you're going to write that name down. We ask them to give you a sign. I kind of walk you through the process. But if you want to find out on your own, I think you said, I hear names. So you don't have to see an image. If you hear a name, and we ask the guide, what are you here to help me with? So if you hear the name and you know how to do a little bit of automatic writing, just sit down, center yourself, call in that name and ask, what are you here to help me with? And see what comes through without censoring yourself, right? So it's really about learning how to sort of have that conversation with them and get the information that they want you to have. Some people will get an image, some people won't. Some people will get a feeling. Some people will hear a noise. It really depends on you. And nothing is wrong. Nothing is incorrect. Everybody just gets things in a different way, right? So don't stress if you don't get an image, because that's fine. You don't have to get an image. I just happen to be really clairvoyant, and I'm just a very visual person. Even when I dream, it's very vivid. It's in color. It's like watching a movie that I'm in, right? But that's just me. Somebody else might hear perfectly. Somebody else might sense things in their body and be very clairsentient where you're feeling things. So it depends. But I would just ask, if you're hearing the name, ask, what are you helping me with? Can you, what sign can you use to let me know that you're around, that type of a thing. Okay, I just wanted to squeeze that question in. So I will see you all back here next Thursday at noon Eastern, and then next Thursday night is this class. So again, the link is below in YouTube and Facebook. I will add it into Instagram if you would like to join me. And I will be back here next Thursday for another weekly spirit boost. So until then, have an amazing weekend doing something that brings you joy, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.